Floetrol. So many people use Floetrol. And today I'm going to be a myth buster and prove that Floetrol does not affect your colors. Although some people say that it dulls them down, I firmly believe it does not affect them one bit. So get out your notepads and pencils and let's get started. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another video. So before I get started today with this special video, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone that purchased some of my soap last week. The response was overwhelming. I just couldn't believe how many people bought soap. I'm almost entirely sold out, and I made a lot of soap for my first round. I like to release sets of 4 so people have, a couple of different options to choose from. And I'm literally sold out of everything except for 2 scents and some shampoo and conditioner bars. So if you missed that sale, send me an email, artbytammy@yahoo.com, and I can let you know which fragrances are left. But I want you guys to be on the lookout because starting this Saturday, I'm going to be doing, well, actually, it's Sunday, so you already missed the first one. You could go back and watch that if you didn't see it. On Saturdays, I'm going to be releasing what's called a Soapy Saturday Short. So every Saturday, I'm going to release a short of a soap cutting for a new bar that I've made or a new batch that I've made, okay? All of my soaps, by the way, are all handmade, made with so many nourishing oils for the skin. Like, there's just too much to go over, but when I release them, I will tell you all of the benefits of using them. But anyway, let's move on. Just don't forget, on Saturdays, look for a short from me. Today's video is all about clarity. And is Floetrol, the product that we use the most, dulling out our colors? I've had multiple people tell me over the years that Floetrol does not dry clear and it actually dulls the color a little bit. Now, I've never noticed it. My paintings always turn out bright and cheerful, and once I put the resin on, or if you use varnish, all that color comes back to life and looks beautiful. But I want to do a test because I want to see if using pouring mediums actually give you more vivid colors versus Floetrol. So what I'm going to do first is a test. I want to test how these 2 products dry, the Floetrol and the pouring medium. Now, the pouring medium, the professional brand pouring mediums, I only have 2 here, but there are a ton of them. I know for a fact they dry crystal clear, okay? Does the Floetrol dry crystal clear? So off camera, I went and I put pouring medium on the right side, Floetrol on the left side, just painted it on really sloppy with a brush. It's been about 15 minutes, and this is almost all dry already. This, you can see, still has quite a bit of drying left to go. I've always known that it's taken Floetrol longer to dry than pouring medium. That is just one of the pros for the pouring medium and one of the cons for the Floetrol. The Floetrol always takes longer to dry. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm just going to move that to the side, and I'm going to talk to you about mixing paints with a pouring medium, okay? Now, a lot of times I do not use pouring mediums on this channel, and maybe there's some of you that like to use them and want to know how to mix them up, so I figured I'd take a moment to show you. Now, with a pouring medium, pouring mediums are very expensive. This little bottle is like, I don't know, 20-something dollars versus $20 a gallon. Okay, so you don't want to go about using them the same way as you would a Floetrol, even though a lot of videos will tell you one part this, one part that. you can get away with using a lot less and save yourself a lot of money. So here is how I would use a pouring medium to thin acrylic paint. Put some paint in the cup just like you would normally. The more paint you add, the more volume you're going to make. I don't need that much, so this will suffice. It's about a tablespoon worth of paint, if that. I would take my pouring medium and I would just put a small amount in there, a squeeze. Mix them together. Whenever you're using any type of product in an acrylic paint, before you add the water, you want to mix that product into your acrylic paint so it has time to attach onto the paint. Marry it. We're marrying the two products together first before adding the water. All right, so I have my pouring medium in there. And then I would just slowly add some water until it reached the consistency that I wanted for the technique I was doing. If you need to know what techniques require what consistency, I have a video in the description of this video, a link for one I should say, that you can click on through your phone, your computer, or your tablet, and go watch that video, and I'll teach you all the different consistencies for all the acrylic pours out there. It's a very helpful video. So you're just going to add the water, like I said, slowly until it gets to the right consistency. Now, I don't need a lot of paint for this little thing here to test, so I don't want to waste it. Okay, and now I'm ready to go. The Floetrol side, I'm going to mix a totally different way. For the Floetrol side, I'm going to put my paint in the cup, about a tablespoon again. But I want to show you something. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 or 3 times that amount. The number doesn't matter to a certain extent. Like here's 1 part Floetrol. Okay. I can mix that up and then thin it the rest of the way with water. If I do that, I'm going to end up with about a half a cup of paint. But because Floetrol is not that expensive, what I like to do is I like to add triple the amount of Floetrol and end up with a full cup of paint by the time I'm done. I have enough color in the cup to color that much Floetrol. Now, again, had I just put a little squirt and then used some water, I would only end up with half a cup of paint. But now I have a full cup of paint, and I can save this for the future to use if I don't use it all today. And I've extended that paint that I put in the cup, you know, by quadruple. Okay, now I would add a little bit of water. Wrong cup. I'm pouring and pouring and nothing's coming out. And I'm like wondering why. Wrong cup. It was, oh boy. Pouring from a cup that has nothing in it. That's Tammy. That's me. All right, so now I have the same consistency paint as that other one I just made with the pouring medium. Except I have a lot more, right? There's hardly nothing in this cup. Now, technically, I could take this pouring medium, like I said, and fill it up all the way, right? And have a full cup of this color. But look how much pouring medium I'm using. That's a lot of money right there. If I do acrylic pouring that way, I'm going to be spending a lot of money. So now you see I have a lot more paint, but I spent some money doing it. And the thing is that you want to be able to do this and not break the bank, especially if you're not selling your art. Now that I've added all that pouring medium in there, it's not going to change the way that it works. Neither will the Floetrol. The effects will be the same with a teaspoon of Floetrol or a gallon of Floetrol put in there. You're still going to get the same effects. It's just I made a little more paint for myself. Same with the pouring medium. You only need a little dash for it to do its job. But if you want to make a full cup of paint and not use a ton of pouring medium to do it, sorry, wrong one, ton of pouring medium to do it, you're going to have to use more paint to create that volume, because somehow you need to make this volume up, right? If you want a full cup, if you're not using this, and you can't use a ton of water because A, it's going to get too thin, and B, a ton of water is not good for your paints in the long run. You know, when it's not dried and on the canvas, it could, flake and crack over the years. You have to make up that volume somehow by using something. So you're going to have to use more paint if you don't want to use more of this. All right, that's just how it is. All right, so I'm going to finish mixing up the other paints, and then we're going to do this pour. Okay, so it's all dry. Now we're going to go over the results because they look totally different, right? Well, here's the thing. In the middle here, you see this where I left that little gap? It's the same color as the Floetrol side, okay? It's a little bit off. It's a little bit brighter because there's nothing on top of it. But the Floetrol side dried clear. You can see it's perfectly clear. However, the pouring medium side, look how deep, well, not deep, what's the word I'm looking for? Stark that side is, the black. And that is because pouring mediums a lot of times have a gloss finish to them. So Liquitex sells their pouring medium in matte and gloss. 99% of the time when you see somebody doing a video, it's with the gloss version of their pouring medium. Now, another thing that can do for our colors is make them look more vivid. The Floetrol, although it dries clear, you're just getting that regular normal color that it is in the tube. However, with the pouring medium, it's almost like your colors have a little bit of a varnish over the surface. So that can make the colors look more vivid. If you are a person that finishes your paintings, however, like I am, I use resin. So once I mix my paints with the Floetrol, do my pour and they dry, they just look normal. But then when I put that resin on, it brings them to life and makes them 10 times more vibrant. All right. This side with the pouring medium, you're like halfway there with the vibrancy because you have that gloss in the product. Another important thing to remember, when you mix up paints with pouring mediums, they tend to thicken up while they're sitting in the cup and the bottle. So just be sure to check them before you use them. And if they need to be adjusted, add a little bit of water to them. But they do thicken up, and they thicken up pretty quickly too. I had these sitting out for about 45 minutes, and I had to add water to them. So just remember that. All right, so what I'm going to do is just pour some color. This is the pouring medium side. And we'll be able to hopefully tell the difference. Well, like I said, I marked the back of the canvas anyway, so it's all good. So this is, I'm using really bright colors because, again, I'm testing to see if you can see a difference, and I want to use really intense colors. So that's why I have this palette. Hopefully the pink and the green don't make mud on me. We shall see. Do the same thing over here with the Floetrol colors. All right, I wanted to zoom in on this part when I use the blow dryer, and it's kind of hard to see with the angle, but it was really hard to push the pouring medium paint with my blow dryer versus the Floetrol side. The Floetrol side with my dryer on low, that's what I always use it on, just blew around just like it always has, very easy to move. This pouring medium side, however, I had to put my dryer on high to get it to move. So again, even though the consistency of both types of paint that I used here mixed with the two different products, even though the consistency is the same, the pouring medium felt thicker and almost stickier. And that's because it has that gloss in the product. The Floetrol, just there's no effort in moving it whatsoever, and you get a ton of beautiful cells. I'll show you the difference in a minute here once I'm done blowing this paint around. So I'm going to be really curious to see how these two sides dry. You can tell on the left side that the green is more brighter than on the right side, and that is, or I shouldn't say brighter, it's lighter than the one on the right side. That's because, like I said, when you mix the Floetrol into your colors, it does make them appear a little bit lighter because it's not a clear substance that you're mixing into them. However, when it dries, as you saw on that black canvas, it does dry clear, but with a matte finish. So now what I'm doing here is I'm just taking the same colors, the pouring medium colors on the left, the Floetrol colors on the right, and this time I'm not going to blow them. I'm just going to kind of just tilt the canvas and let them run down, do a little tiny swipe in the center of them just to prove a point to you, well, to the beginners, that pouring mediums don't work the same way as Floetrol does in some techniques such as swiping. It really works the best when you combine it with something else like a Floetrol. But anyway, here's a little mini swipe for you using pouring medium colors. You're going to notice that you really don't get anything out of it. And then when I go over to the Floetrol side and do a little mini swipe through the center of it, you're going to see that I get a beautiful lacing and cell pattern right away. So these are some things to consider for new pour artists, and just a few tips to save you some cash so you don't overuse your products. Okay, so the next thing to do is to wait, let it dry, and then we'll come back. You saw I was able to blow this Floetrol side around like crazy. Did you see what happened when I came back to this a second time, how thick it looked? The heat was definitely affecting the paint from my blow dryer. And again, that goes to show how fast pouring medium starts to dry. But you can see no cells, no lacing. You could blow the color out fine, but it really doesn't give you any kind of depth or there's some depth, but not much. Look at this side, though. Loaded with lacing and cells. Just really, it's really what acrylic pouring, what people look for in acrylic pouring. You know, this pretty cells and lacing and just that shock value, you know, when you look at it like, oh, that's so cool. Not everybody likes lacing and cells, but, you know, to me, this is not fun. So what I did over here, just for a little experiment, was I put down some more of the paints. We'll see how these dry as well without blowing them all around. And then I just swiped a little bit up the center. You can see no kind of reaction with the pouring medium yet. With the Floetrol, again, you get that nice lacing and cell pattern. So I guess it all depends on the look you're going for. If you're beginning this and you're trying to do Dutch pour, I highly recommend do not use pouring medium. Stick with the Floetrol. But the other techniques, just experiment. See what you like. So we'll let this dry and then we'll come back and take a look and see if there's a difference in the vibrancy between the two. Okay? Alrighty, my friends, here we go. Everything's dry, and I've got a few things to point out to you. All right, so for vibrancy, I do not see any difference between the Floetrol side and the pouring medium side. You can see the dark green. You got to kind of try to ignore the lacing and cells and just look at the color underneath them. See the dark green going through there? Same as down here, okay? The pink, just as vibrant as it is over here. I do not see a difference at all, all right? So I think I've busted the myth that Floetrol dulls your colors. Secondly, I want to point out this middle section here and how horribly it dried. You can see some cracking and flocculation in there, all right? That is because the two mediums met in the middle where I was blowing the two different types of paints. So you can see how sometimes doing things like using green and pink that is mixed in Floetrol, and let's say you have a pink and a green that's mixed in pouring medium and you want to do a Dutch pour and you just decide to use them both together. This is what can happen, okay? So it's always good to mix all of your paints with the same product, either all pouring medium or all Floetrol, or make a pouring medium with multiple ingredients in it, but that it's used in all of your colors, all right? Because a lot of people do use a pouring medium that's made out of Floetrol and Liquitex pouring medium. Maybe they add a few other things in there. As long as that recipe is mixed into all of your colors, your paints should dry fine. So that was the first thing, or first two things. The top portion, the Floetrol portion, dried matte. The bottom portion has a little bit of shine to it, but not even enough for the camera to pick up. So if you're using pouring medium, I would definitely still recommend top coating your painting. And the last thing was our drip test here where I did the little swipe in between. No difference in the colors again. The only difference was we got some cells and lacing over here with our little tiny swipe we did, and we got nothing here. Zero Shapiro. But the colors to me are the same vibrancy. I'm judging off of the green. It looks exactly the same. So, final thoughts. If you are a new pour artist, I would highly recommend using Floetrol in your colors because not only is it going to be cheaper than using pouring medium, as you saw, you're also going to be able to experience getting beautiful things like lacing and cells. When you're doing a technique such as the Dutch pour, as I mentioned before, you definitely want to use Floetrol. But honestly, I use Floetrol for almost every single acrylic pour I do, unless it's something like the bloom technique where you have to use house paints, or if it's something like the pearl cell technique where you have to use satin enamels, Floetrol, pouring medium, all of that stuff combined to get that effect. But for the basic beginner, I would highly suggest just get a jug of Floetrol for $20 and have some fun with it, okay? So that's it for today's video. Don't forget to go under my shorts tab and look for the short I released yesterday, Soapy Saturday short, and make sure you follow every Saturday for a new soap video. And then I'll see you back here next Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another tutorial. I love you all and happy pouring.